Good evening, everyone, and thank you for listening to the Futurati Podcast, where we dive into how emerging technologies will impact the world and your bank account. I'm Trent Fowler, and joining me, as always, is my co-host, Thomas Fry. Thomas and I are futurists, keynote speakers, and consultants with decades of experience in analyzing trends and communicating new developments to audiences across the world. Reach out to us at futuratipodcast.com/contact-futurati if you'd like to hire us for consulting, to speak at your event, or to advertise on our podcast. Thomas, we just wrapped up episode 125 about knowledge avatars, where Emiliano De Laurentiis and his team have used GPT-3 and similar sorts of technologies on the back end, hooked up some additional functionality in the front, and they've created a way for you to embody your knowledge in an artifact in a way that could teach lots of other people. What was your big takeaway from this episode?
Well, this is what a lot of companies have been hoping for, is to have the ability to, so if somebody has questions about, and to get on your website, they have questions, they want to know more, and it's just something that's an easy thing to do. Just click on this human looking person, and it'll give you the answers to your questions, and it'll guide you through what you need to know. That I think that it gets rid of kind of the need for call centers, customer service agents. At least it's moving in that direction. It's not there yet, but yeah. So that's I think what a lot of companies are aspiring towards.
Well, in a way, there has been a broader strain within science fiction that has been moving towards this as well. So we still have a ways to go, but this is one step in the direction towards the young ladies illustrated primer described in Neil Stephenson's classic science fiction work, The Diamond Age. And it also reminds me of Danny Hillis's Aristotle program, which is a similar sort of thing. It's this really sophisticated piece of software that's able to guide you in an open-ended way through explorations of different topics, break concepts down for you, give you examples, identify weak spots in your knowledge, have you shore them up, that sort of thing. It's a sort of tutor, but a pretty non-trivial one. So this isn't quite that, but when you watch the interview and you see what they've got going on, you can sort of see how this is a move in that direction. And in general, I'm really excited about it. It's not like we have too many teachers in the world. It's not like we have too many people who are well educated. I mean, there's lots of gaps that need to be filled, and I think that scaling this up would be something that would have a hugely positive impact on the world.
Yeah, and he's been at this for over 40 years, which kind of blows me away. I mean, this idea that they were talking about chatbots back in the 1980s. That's still pretty mind-boggling, because that wasn't a term that was common in any way, shape, or form back then. Yeah, so he's got kind of a lifetime of knowledge that he's bringing to the table here, and creating these avatars, and it's no small achievement to do something like this. So I certainly wish him the best, and I hope he can bring this out to the masses here very soon.
Absolutely. I feel exactly the same, and I wish you all the best in listening to episode 125 with Emiliano De Laurentiis. Tonight, we're joined by Emiliano De Laurentiis. Emiliano is a trained cognitive psychologist with a lifelong interest in lifelong learning and an impressive record of using technology to enhance educational outcomes. In the 80s, his Arrakis Advantage series was the first educational software to use chatbots. In the 90s, he launched a website that brought adaptive, student-specific learning to the internet. Today, his Knowledge Avatars platform is making it possible for experts in any domain to create robot tutors with the potential to educate millions of people. If you enjoy this interview, please subscribe to the podcast and share it with your friends. And don't forget to check out our website, futuratipodcast.com. Emiliano, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure being here.
Let's hear a little bit about your background, your interests, and what brought you to working on the problems that you're working on today.
Yeah, well, all my life I've been trying to make learning easier. and that has been the main driver of my work. Uh, AI has just been one of those tools that has made that possible. I started using AI in the 1980s in one of our earlier projects called the Arrakis Advantage, that was published by Prentice Hall and and funded by Coles Notes and Cliffs Notes. Cliffs Notes and Coles Notes had a partnership. So I was in Canada at the time. I was had just graduated from McGill University in educational psychology and cognitive sciences, and started my own company with a group of AI experts, and we were people who were working on expert systems, medical diagnosis, all those kinds of issues, and so I started looking at how can we intersect pedagogy, learning, and technology, and technology was my passion. It was my hobby, actually, but cognitive sciences and educational psychology was what I was trained in, and that's really what I started looking at, is how can we intersect those three things, and that's so the first project we had the Arrakis Advantage had a chatbot, probably the first chatbot used in education ever.
That's chatbot.
Yeah, chatbot. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, we
With
developed a system called Socrates. So Socrates was the engine that we developed at that time. That was in 1982 or 83, and you could talk to our chatbot and ask it questions about about educational give you examples. Yeah, teach you you could ask the questions about whatever the concept is, and so we had an interface that was voice oriented, that was chat oriented before chatbots were there, existed in the marketplace.
Yeah, I
what
had no
kind of
idea chatbots were around in '82. That's way earlier than most people understood the term or anything at that point.
Well, we based it on some of the earlier research in psychology. There was some early research where people they had a sort of a type based chatbot, and people were doing research to see if you were, I can't remember the name of the project at the moment, but it was an online psychologist, and so you would ask it questions, and it would respond with very basic responses, like that is a good, yes, it's a good question. Tell me more about your family. Tell me more about your about your parents, and and that that system was tried out in the '60s. I think the name will come to me at some point. In any case, that research was done in the '60s, and it was very disturbing because they discovered that people reacted to this very basic chatbot technology as if it was a real therapist. But it was a precursor for what we have today in chatbot technology.
What technologies were you using to build those intelligent systems in the 80s? I mean, this was pre neural networks, pre sklearn, pre all the stuff I use. So I'm just curious as to what that actually looked like.
Yeah, it was all we built it all in C++. It was all it was all proprietary, and we had natural language processing that we designed ourselves, and they basically allowed us to, it was looking for certain key words or key phrases, and use that information. In fact, we developed 18 products with that technology, and I received some information just about 2 or 3 years ago. Somebody from India called me and said, Emiliano, I've been looking for you for 40 years. We've been using your software in India, and we've been teaching math and science with your technology, and it's a pleasure finally meeting you."
Wow.
So,
Wow, that's a long time. Well,
Yeah.
it amazes me, like, how would they use it? I mean, how did you distribute it such that they could still use it? I mean, if, like, 40-year-old software is kind of tricky to run sometimes, especially if nobody's been
oh,
maintaining it. So I don't even know how
I
they're doing it.
I have an old PC that I can still run the software on. It runs on floppy disks. So we developed our own operating system. So basically, you stick the floppy disk into your machine, and it took over DOS. Just eliminated DOS. Actually, it just took over the system, because we developed an operating system that was essentially. We could program once, create content once, and then it generated code for 5 different operating systems. So we were running on the Apple, on the IBM PC. This was before Macintosh, so it's just Apple PC, Commodore 64, TRS-80, and there was a fifth one, but I think Atari, the Atari computer.
Uh,
And we based it on the similar technology that you had with Pascal, the Pascal P code.
Mhm.
I don't know if you're familiar with that. So Pascal, when you wrote code in Pascal, language Pascal, it basically interpreted it into what they called P code. And P code was sort of a layer between the operating system and the higher level language. And so you just had to have that interpreter for each operating system, and that's essentially what we did. We had an interpreter for each of the different operating systems.
well, you've kind of slingshotted yourself into a whole different realm of AI now. Tell us about the projects you're working on today.
Yeah. So again, on the theme of trying to make education easier and learning easier, I started developing knowledge avatars. So let me first explain to you why it's called knowledge avatars. Because even though our technology has to do with AI and chat, it goes beyond that. What is an avatar? An avatar in the gaming industry is a representation of yourself in the game. But what is an avatar originally? Originally, an avatar is a representation of a deity on Earth in Hinduism. That is what an avatar is. It's a representation of a deity on Earth. So a knowledge avatar is a representation of your knowledge in cyberspace. So the goal of knowledge avatars, which I started 7 years ago, before Chat GPT and before OpenAI, was to represent your knowledge as an instructor, as an expert, to represent your knowledge in an entity, so that it could teach for you in the way that you teach when you're not available. So to be your teaching assistant, basically, and that is the goal. That has been the goal of knowledge avatars, and that is what we offer today.
So what is the point of having it be an avatar? Like, can you describe the avatar a little bit to me? Is it actually a little character that looks like me? Is it just Clippy from, the early days of Windows? What does this actually look like?
Yeah. Please don't explain. Don't use Clippy as an example. Yeah, that was a bad one. That destroyed a lot of perceptions of people's perceptions. Um, so so first of all, an avatar can be anything. It doesn't have to be an actual character. It can be just text by itself. or it could be some kind of animation. It could be a blob. It could be a glowing light, as in 2001: A Space Odyssey. So it could be any character that you want. Generally, we find, and the research shows, that people relate more to an actual person, an actual character. But there's a balance. You have to balance it between. I don't know if you've heard the term uncanny valley.
Mhm.
So you don't want things to feel so creepy, so kind of not quite human-like enough that it looks creepy. Like Sophia, the bot Sophia, that is now a citizen of Saudi Arabia. In my opinion, is a creepy, is a creepy
Yeah, yeah.
bot.
Man, okay.
Yeah. So can you give us a demonstration and kind of talk us through how this whole thing works, and give us maybe one of your more common applications for it?
Yeah, I can. Um, so let me explain one thing in advance of the demo. Is that what we have done is, not rather than just creating a chatbot that just answers your questions, we wanted to optimize the bot to be able to teach. So what would make an ideal tutor is really the question that we try to ask ourselves. Like, what would what would be an ideal tutor? So an ideal tutor is a tutor that can answer your questions, but it's also a tutor that can show you what are the knowledge gaps that you may have, what are the prerequisites that you need for any particular concept. It's also a tutor that can present not just definitions, but also can provide you with examples and at any number of any number of examples for a particular concept. And so we have designed our bots to work on a concept by concept level. The concept is actually the essence of knowledge. It's sort of the atom of knowledge. So a concept, what is a concept? A concept is a description of a particular entity. It is an idea. It is a process, and you have a generalization of a concept. But you also have so generalization. Once you have that generalization of a concept embedded in your schema, in your brain, then you totally understand it. So if you understand a chess tactic, then you totally understand that chess tactic. If you don't really understand what a chess tactic is, then then what you need is examples to give you to. In fact, that is how bots are trained today, right? You provide a bot with many examples until they can generalize and uh, and uh, and and, uh, and represent that particular concept. So we're trying to do the reverse with humans. We're trying to give people the generalization of a particular concept, and in doing it with many examples. That is the essence of how we learn. It's actually quite simple.
Hello, this is Trent Fowler, co-host of the Futurati podcast. One of the most common pieces of marketing advice I've come across is to know your audience and give them what they want. One difficulty in podcasting is that it's actually pretty hard to do this. None of the major platforms give us any way to reach out to you, our listeners, to find out what you enjoy about the Futurati podcast and what you'd like to see done differently. So we've decided to record this commercial and ask you directly to reach out to us. Head over to futuratipodcast.com, go to the contact page, and drop us a line. Tell us about your favorite and least favorite episodes, what you'd like to see us cover in the future, and anything else you want us to know. We produce this show for you, and we want your advice so we can make it even better. Thank you.
So if you like, I'll share my screen, and I'll demonstrate how we can learn with chess with our chess bot.
Okay, as we're moving into the screen sharing mode here, Can you kind of talk through what things we're seeing, and is this something that would appear on a computer that you're using?
Okay,
Okay.
so you see a screen. Okay. So uh, uh, what we have here is our chess guru, and all of our the Knowledge Avatars platform is a platform where you can train your bot. Okay, it's very simple. There's no programming involved at all, and you can go in and start training your bot from day one. And within hours, you can have a bot that teaches people using your knowledge and using your content. You could select. We're making some updates right now, so in the near future, within the next few weeks actually, you'll be able to select your bot, select your character, even select your language. We support 33 languages right now. Our bots, we have bots that speak Korean, that speak Spanish, and so on. And we can also customize the bot to look like you. We don't have an automated system for that yet, but that will come this year. We're in the process of working on that as well. So you can have a bot that looks just pretty much as close to you as possible. This is a little widget. The widget has a banner at the top that just describes what the bot is, and then we have a little rotating banner. This banner could be an advertisement, or it could be simply instructions. We support our bots through advertising, but if you don't want advertisements, that's fine. We can just charge you for usage. So what it boils down to is you could create your bot for free, and you can use your bot for free, as long as you don't mind us having advertisements. And we pay you 20% of advertising fees. So the creator, the person who trains the bot, can be generating revenue from their own bot. So
Okay.
our bot, you can speak to our bot with voice or text. So you had a question?
Now, does the question have to be focused on chess then, or can it be?
So each bot has its own knowledge base. We're focusing. Each bot has its own expertise. So yes, in this case, this particular bot, its expertise is chess. But we have other bots. We have bots in accounting and algebra, history, and so on. So every bot has different capability. We could give any particular bot more than one knowledge base. It's sort of like the Matrix. If you remember in the Matrix, they would jack up their brain, and the person could develop new knowledge just by getting jacked up. We could do the same thing with the bot. So any particular bot can have more than one knowledge base, but generally we're focusing on one knowledge base at a time.
Okay.
So you just ask it a question like how it would respond to the Queen's Gambit, or how it would open.
Well, so we started off by making sure that she knows we're talking about chess, and so this usually we start off with something like "Tell me about chess."
So she talks. You have voice synthesis technology, right? Is it pretty good voice synthesis?
Oh yeah. Well, it's based on we use Alexa's system, same technology. It's Amazon's Poly. So we use the same technology that is used by Amazon.
Talk to me a little bit about the training process. What does that look like? So how would I go through creating a bot and offloading my knowledge?
So training involves identifying which concepts you want the bot to know about. So, for example, in chess, I can take you to that page. Well, it's like I've got some. I don't know why my screen is here. Okay, here we go. So our future bots in the near future, we're going to be as realistic as what you see here. That's our next iteration.
That's pretty good. Yeah. I'd say you're on the other side of the uncanny valley.
Yeah,
Oh,
yes.
cybersecurity
And
guru. That looks pretty.
so now here we are in the chess section. So basically, here are this is so this what you're looking at right now is a knowledge matrix. A knowledge matrix is basically all of the concepts that you trained your bot in, and what it shows you are the individual concepts like rook, for example, and capturing and pawn structure. And it also shows you what are prerequisites to which other concepts. So, for example, openings, you have stages, controlling the center, pawn structure, castling, and development. So these are related to openings. So you can ask the bot, tell me about openings, or tell me, or what else do I need to know? And it'll tell you, you need to know about controlling the center, the pawn structure, castling, and development. These are the prerequisites to understanding about openings. So really, it acts like a tutor, like I said, to help you understand how the topic works. So
Now,
it's a higher level. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to ask, so do I, as the user, put the structure in, or does it discover it by doing something like topic modeling over a knowledge dump? Because you could feed it a lot of documents, and it plausibly could learn a structure from that with some kind of clustering, or
Right,
like entity extraction and then
right.
clustering on top of that. So do I have to tell it? Can it learn its own concepts?
Right now, what you do is you tell it. We have a project in place right now where it will interview the expert and learn from the expert. But right now, what you do is you go into the back end and you simply scroll down and simply tell it, here are the prerequisites. So for this particular concept, these are the prerequisites, and that's basically it. And it creates the diagram for you.
So you've been working on this for quite a while, and it's been rather recent when Chat GPT came out and suddenly took off like a rocket and became the fastest growing app of all times. How has that changed the way you think about this, and how has that changed your business model?
It hasn't actually. We use OpenAI technology in the back end. So, for example, if I I could talk to our bot here about chess. If I ask her, just to give you an example, tell me about tactics. All right. So she responds with the information that I gave it, including the video, the image that I also gave it, right? So so the widget itself can be on any website and will respond with specifically what I, as the instructor, wanted to respond with. But if I ask it something like that's totally not random, but something that I didn't train it with, for example, if I say which is Bobby Fischer's best. I guess it's not spelled that way. Fischer's best game. Let's see what it says.
So it says Bobby Fischer's best game is widely considered to be his win over Donald Byrne in the 1956 U.S. Chess Championship. It has come to be known as the game of the century due to its complexity and brilliance. Okay, so
Right.
that came.
So it went to that came from GPT-3.
Okay.
And so one of the things that one thing that if you've been I'm sure you've been reading the news. ChatGPT is not usually accurate, so it tends to it's like a student trying to look smart in an essay, but without but doing a little bit of bullshitting along the way, right? So
right.
so what we're doing is we are creating we're asking the GPT system questions, and we're trying to filter that out as well make sure that the content is as accurate as possible. I'm sure that we may come out, some of our queries will not be accurate as well, but in general, we're looking at non-critical queries will go to GPT-3, so like in this case, this seems to be I would have to confirm it, but it seems to be an accurate response.
Interesting. So you've got some kind of fact checking layer on top.
Yeah.
You've got some kind of fact checking.
Yeah, so we're doing some checking, and particularly we're filtering out content that is inappropriate. In particular, because we're also dealing with schools, we want to make sure that a lot of our content is appropriate. So we filter content that is sexual or violent in nature. And none of those responses, none of those queries will go to GPT-3 or to OpenAI.
Yeah. Okay. That's really interesting. So how far do you plan on pushing in the direction of generative AI? Have you thought about using Stable Diffusion for some of the image generation, or trying to have it make short films or something like that to illustrate concepts?
Well, we haven't really delved into that at the moment. I think our focus right now is to make it as easy as possible for any teacher to create their own knowledge avatar, so that their knowledge avatar can represent what they are teaching. They're using their images, using their videos, using their words, and so that when our goal is that every teacher on earth can have their own knowledge avatar, so they could use that knowledge avatar to promote, to help as a teaching assistant, to help them teach. We're not trying to create a general intelligence. That is not our goal. That's what OpenAI is trying to do. I think they have a ways to go before they're going to succeed in that. But like I said, we will use OpenAI's technology in the back end as much as we can to enhance what we're doing, so that the teacher doesn't have the burden of having to train the bot completely themselves.
Are you enjoying this episode of the Futurati podcast? If so, please like it, give the show a 5-star rating on Apple Podcast, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts, and share it with your friends. By far, the best way to help us grow is to spread the word on social media, which will expose our content to more people and help us continue to bring you interviews with world-leading experts in AI, quantum computing, cryptocurrencies, and so much more. Thank you in advance.
So give us an idea of what the learning curve is for a teacher that is learning to program their own avatar, to work with it on a regular basis. How many hours are involved, and I'm sure there's a beginner level and kind of intermediate and expert levels. How many hours are involved in any of those levels?
Yeah, that's a good question. Generally, we've had people learn how to program in about less than an hour. I use the word program that's very loosely. It's really about it's not about programming, but about representing their knowledge. I think most people are used to thinking in terms of stories, in terms of lectures, and really the biggest challenge is for people to start thinking, what are the concepts that I need to teach? What are the basic let's break down the concepts in this body of knowledge that I'm teaching, whether I'm teaching public speaking or I'm teaching algebra. What are the basic concepts? And we have an algorithm to help people do that. It's actually quite simple. And we have a bot that teaches people how to create knowledge avatars. So you could chat with our bot to help you learn how to create knowledge avatars. And for more and people who prefer to work with a human, we have a support system where we will provide support. But generally, the algorithm is this: you start off at a higher level. Let's say we're talking about osmosis, and so you define osmosis. What is osmosis? So you define osmosis, and then within that definition, you pick out other words that are concepts that you're using to define osmosis. Right. So, for example, a barrier is used in defining osmosis. So, what is a barrier? So now you define that, and that becomes a prerequisite for you to understand what osmosis is. And so, and then you define barrier. What is a in that definition, you may find words that also need definitions. So if you use that algorithm, you can easily build your knowledge matrix and have a structure that basically says, okay, that basically represents all of the concepts and all the prerequisites that are required to teaching that concept. I've had, we went through that process, for example, with an accounting professor, and after he went through that process, he says, well, I finally understand how to teach accounting. And now I understand why it is that so many of my students don't understand me in class, because we make so many assumptions when we're teaching things about what students know, and those defining those prerequisites and sub concepts is really essential to having a good knowledge structure. So really, what we're doing is we're teaching people how to be knowledge engineers, but it's not difficult. It's just an algorithm, and at some point we'll have a bot that does it for people. But still, if we want to keep it personalized for the individual tutor or the individual instructor, then we'll still have to have the instructor either speaking to the bot or interacting with the bot at some level to train the bot in some way.
That's really interesting. Can you, in the closing minutes here, tell us a little bit about what knowledge avatars have in store for us? What's coming down the pipe the next few iterations?
Yeah, well, for one thing, we will have very soon. We'll have the ability to create a bot that looks just like you, like the instructor, very rapidly. Right now, we could do it in less than a week, but there's a certain cost involved. It's not a high cost, but there is a cost, but we're hoping that we can make that as free as possible within the next few months. And the main we're in the process of reinvigorating our whole website and changing the user interface and just making it a lot easier. So within the next few weeks, people should be able to create their own knowledge avatar within 2 or 3 clicks, and have a knowledge avatar that they can place on their website very rapidly. We're also going to have larger bots. We're going to have bots that are, right now our bots are about 300 pixels wide. We're going to have bots that are going to be 600 pixels wide and 800 pixels wide, so they can take up the whole screen, and they become very immersive at that point. And the other thing I should add is that we are also looking at incorporating our bots in VR. In fact, we have a few projects in mind right now that the few projects in the works where we are doing, for example, we're doing sports training with bots in VR. I have a demo for that if you're interested. I have a 2-minute video that describes that. But we're doing a project with rugby training, and that eventually will be in other sports as well, to teach people, where our bot will help coaches determine what it is that they should be teaching. But we're going to be using VR to demonstrate different different positions and different strategies.
Do you need a dynamic and knowledgeable speaker for an event? Thomas Fry and me, Trent Fowler, are both seasoned keynote speakers, able to converse on a wide array of topics to audiences of all sizes and skill levels. Go to the contact page at futureaudiopodcast.com to book Thomas or myself today, and let us apply our years of experience in public speaking to make your event a smashing success.
So Google's been talking a lot about their AI program called Bard, and it's supposed to be supposedly way more advanced than Chat GPT. Is that something you could incorporate into this as well, or you don't have enough information yet to make that determination, or what you're thinking about that?
Yeah, we haven't looked into that yet. I've talked to some of the people at Google recently to see what they have in the works. But from what I see, all these systems are these companies are trying to have a general purpose bot that can respond to almost any question. I think the direction that they are going in is that they will have an intelligent search engine. I think Google will have that, and ChatGPT will become that. It's true they could write poetry, it could write essays, and so on. But again, you have to fact check those systems. I think all those capabilities are very impressive, and I've used them myself. I've used them to write short descriptions of things, or even use them to write resumes to see how well it would do. I mean, we use tools like that, like Grammarly. We use tools, similar tools, in different venues. But I think that if you want to be able to depend on the project on the bot, they will have to be a lot more accurate. So I think they'll be, their initial success will be, it will replace a Google search, because after all, Google searches today are so inefficient. And who wants to you do a search and you get 3 ads and 5 articles. So how is that helpful? So I think that the bots are certainly making that a lot more efficient.
Well, where would you like us to send people who want to learn more about this project and your work more generally?
Well, thank you. We have our website is knowledgeavatars.com, and there are besides the general descriptions of what we're doing, we have a blog as well. So we publish regular articles on the subject, and so that is one place where people can learn more about what we're doing. And certainly, I'm always available to talk to people. And what we are doing, what we're looking for is partners. That is our main goal. We're looking for people who are either learning management systems, educators, but mostly companies, organizations that are involved in training other people. We want to provide the tools for people to create these knowledge avatars that help particular organizations, whether they're individual professors or organizations that teach large companies on the specifics. I mean, that's one thing. That's one area where knowledge avatars will shine, is that we can teach your organization about the things that matter to you. ChatGPT or Bard will never have that knowledge, really, about how your Salesforce program will, for example, enhance somebody's sales capabilities.
All right.
Well, fantastic. Yeah, this has been a lot of fun. It's a fascinating application of this technology. It's something we've all been waiting for a really long time, and I'm glad to see that you've made such progress tying it all together and getting a product. product ready to go.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate being on the show.
Well, absolutely. Appreciate it, Emiliano. We'll include links to your work and we'll let you know when it all goes live. Best of luck with future endeavors.
Very good. Thank you very much. Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. Bye now.